what's your name? Is this where you're gonna sit?
This is, it depends on whether we're government or opposition.
Oh, okay. Okay, rock, scissors, paper, who's our representative?
And we go right over here.
Okay. I'll say rock, scissors, paper. So on paper, throw it out. Korean style. Hi, bye, boom. Government, okay. And speaking order.
I'll be a promise.
Okay, so you're gonna start.
You're saying this. Yeah, I'm gonna try this desk to put our additional speaker here.
Tony? Okay. So, welcome to the debate competition today. My name is Jeff. I've been doing this. I've taught debate for 4 years. I like to think I know what I'm doing. Anyway, so you guys know speeches are 5 minutes. First minute and last minute of the first 3 speeches is protected, and the entirety of the whip speech is protected. Keep your POIs under 15 seconds. Any questions? Okay. You ready to get started? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So one day, I'm just gonna keep it to 1 minute. Okay. One for 1 minute. I'm gonna do it at 1 minute, 4 minutes, and 5 minutes. Okay. You're allowed 30 seconds. Run over time, but more than that, I'm just gonna shut you down. Okay. All right. Everybody ready? Okay. Joseph.
Yep.
Maybe you want to get started. Right?
Now, please allow me to start. And why don't I start in my little screen? Every single time on my way home, there is a way I have to get through the elevator. And there is one thing, my secret that I always do. Well, to show an example, I may be saying dance. But so as you have seen, I'm sorry that I'm very terrible at it. But there is one thing that stops me from enjoying my time. Myself, my own self, the 2 CCTVs directly pointing exactly at me from the elevator. To my honorable judge and my fellow debaters, my colleagues, my components, I'm today representing the Prime Minister of the government side. And today, the House believes the CCTV is a threat to our freedom. I'm very thankful that today I'm given this desk, given this time to speak for the governmental side. And I'd like to thank all of us here for coming here to find a better way their society can work on. Now, before we start, I'd like to get our definitions very straight. First, the definition for freedom will be defined as our freedom to comfortably and fully enjoy our rights. And CCTV will be all the CCTVs that is government and cared by the government. But there is one very important thing I'd like to cover before this debate starts. Today, we're here to discuss whether CCTV is a threat to our freedom or not. the government side would not take a single argument done by the opposition, not a single word, if they discuss about CCTV's effectiveness or not. They will not take a single argument about necessity of CCTV. Again, the government hopes that the opposition will not waste a single minute, a single second of our jury's precious time by unrelated topic, unrelated arguments. And just to inform everyone sitting down, I am the Prime Minister discussing about hesitation that CCTV causes. Next to me will be our Deputy Prime Minister discussing about misuse of CCTV, and next to her is a member of the government discussing about CCTV used in sexual harassment. And at the end of the line, we are government to whip, who is thankfully closing our stance, putting all of our arguments together. Ladies and gentlemen, I showed you a little very embarrassing actions and little chunks of words. Just to inform you, a very common example of CCTV causing hesitation. Again, CCTV causes hesitation to people. According to Dr. Frederick Roden, one of the two reasons that causes hesitation is your fear that you're being judged. And just like a scientific fact, that 30% of your full appearance is decided by your first outer appearance, a man is judged by your outer look. Therefore, when you looked at your outer look, you feel hesitated because you fear that you looked. One psychology.
P.O.I.
Yes, please.
How does the outer look of you relate to CCTV?
Thank you for the question, and I'll soon address it. So please listen carefully. Please allow me to continue. One psychology to be respected and treated importantly, and other psychology to recognize others by their outer looks comes together, and is what causes hesitation. And as my opposition have already asked me, how does CCTV relate to this? Ladies and gentlemen, CCTV watches you 24 hours a day. CCTV allows the man on the other side of the screen to watch every single action that you make. There is no difference between performing on a stage and being watched by CCTV, because you're constantly watched directly, and you know that you're watched. As I've already discussed, CCTV is a natural action that stops you from acting freely and naturally. And according to UN Human Declaration, the 13th article, we the people have the free right, the freedom, the right to freely act and freely speak. And therefore, CCTV, which causes hesitation, and as hesitation stops us from acting freely and being free by ourselves. The government side believes that hesitation is partly violation of human rights. And therefore, CCTV is a threat to our freedom. If this was end of our argument, if this was end of our argumentation, I would never be able to stand here so competitively and so confidently. Now, I'd like to mention that there is much more to be continued, and I would like the oppositional side, Mr. Speaker, to please concentrate in this debate. Now, passing the torch of this debate to my fellow Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
We have to give you one.
Yeah.
We have to. Oh, we did have one.
1 minute.
We should be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker and my fellow debaters, I am Rick, the opposition leader. Our House strongly disagrees that CCTV is a threat to our freedom. Before speaking, I would like to point out some misinformation given by the government and proving how they were erroneous by challenging them. It is a generalization that all CCTV is looking always 24 hours, and that would be said by mentioned afterwards. And there's no irrelevance between the outer look and the hesitation. And half the time was about a personal story and about CCTVs, and it was confusing what was the purpose of the government. It is unfair for all citizens that personal privacy is being infringed by anyone, including CCTV. And because the government's definition of some terms was unclear, we, the opposition, would like to define them again and more clearly. According to the American Heritage College Dictionary, threat is defined as a cost of unjust and great harm. Also, freedom refers to fundamental normative rules about what is allowed of people or owed to people according to some legal system, social convention, or ethical theory. Our two main assertions that CCTV is not a threat to our freedom are that, first, that by the CCTVs, lives of people can be saved and privacy of citizens can be protected because data of CCTV is deleted. Our deputy leader, John, will discuss the prevention of serious crimes by the act of CCTV. Thereafter, Andrew, the opposition member, will respond to the main points discussed by the government and expose weaknesses of their arguments, then offer details that support our position's fundamental objectives. Finally, our team's with Yago shall first rebut major points of contention made by the members of the government, summarize the debate, and explain how our arguments were more convincing and why we the opposition should prevail.
POI?
Yes.
I would like to ask why the government's definition was unclear.
Because the definition of, here says, the freedom has the definition of objective, so it cannot just mean on one point, but other points as well.
Can't do it twice in a row.
But closed-circuit televisions, which can thoroughly look at everywhere, including places where people usually does not go, by that there is a higher potentiality for the citizens' lives to be salvaged. To clarify, by CCTVs, lives of the people can be protected. CCTVs can thoroughly look through places even where people usually does not go. If people secretly, without being known by any other people, use violence to another, if there are no CCTVs in there, it would be hard to find who the assailants were and how the victim was violated. With CCTVs, people will know who the victim and the assailants were and how the victim was violated. Even though people have a possibility to see such kinds of incidents, this possibility is very small. One article named CCTV a threat to citizens' freedom has claimed that throughout the year, there are more than 10,000 incidents which people were saved by CCTVs, not including violence, and more than 40,000 incidents which people were seriously injured or dead, but could be solved on CCTVs were activated in these places. This shows that CCTVs can actually save a number of citizens and their freedom, since freedom is allowed for everyone to have. My second contention is, even though there are some CCTVs which contain private or significant data, all data from CCTV is eventually deleted. There are different kinds of CCTVs. There are ordinary ones and some special ones which contain important data. And according to the article named Private Life of Citizens in 2010, the ordinary CCTV's data is deleted after 15 days. In addition, the data which is important or private is deleted after a week. Even though the elimination of data is different, it's clear that data ultimately get eliminated. This can stop the criminals to infringe innocent citizens' personal privacy, thereby the disadvantage of citizens ultimately decrease. To sum up, I again strongly believe that CCTV is not a threat to our freedom. By these CCTVs, lives of people can be saved and privacy of innocent citizens ultimately can be protected also. In our society, where crimes are specific and modern technology is advanced, CCTV is essential to us. Thank you.
2 minutes.
I think they just try to shift the attention on their side.
Make the definition actually your freedom to fully
Yeah.
He said that governments have a more objective, but they didn't bring counter.
Yeah.
What was their rebuttal to
Besides the definition Well, I will help explain about this.
So, just so you guys know, when I feel before, because he had already responded to one, and you can't have one right after another. You gotta wait like 30, 20, 30. Okay? Alright, ready?
Honorable Judge and fellow debaters, I am the Deputy Prime Minister of the government. Regardless of the question's argument, which sounded to me like a child resonating for the latest smartphone, this House still strongly believes that CCTV is a threat to our freedom. Before I start my speech, I would like to shift the definition again to the freedom as to fully enjoy the rights of people, as the opposition didn't give proper reason to shift it, and deciding the definition is actually government's role. And I'll now, from now on, rebut one of the points the Prime Minister, leader of opposition made. According to Telegraph, only one of thousands crimes was caught by CCTV. So the leader of opposition's source may be not valuable as our sources. So we can now discuss CCTV is not effective at protecting our citizens' freedom. From now on, I'll begin my speech. CCTVs are being misused. I'll explain about misuse of CCTV by hacking and officers. We know that someone is always watching us through CCTV, but that someone is maybe not the someone that we usually think of. The problem is that CCTV is so vulnerable at hacking. According to H. Moore, CTO of Security Tools, the vulnerabilities allow for unauthenticated access to the device configuration, which includes the clear text usernames and passwords that once obtained can be used to execute arbitrary system commands through a secondary flow in the web interface. CCTVs are so easy to hack. In the research of Vyas and McCorkley, security researchers with the Silence project found some systems are available over the internet. For other CCTVs, we had to type ID and password, But you know what? Justin Kakak, the senior security engineer of the Gotham Digital Science, did research about CCTV security, and he found out more than 70% of CCTV's ID was admin or user, and password was 1234 or 1111. This means more than 70% of our CCTVs are open to hackers. Yes, please.
According to our research, the rate of the CCTV hack was only 0.09%. How do you think about that?
I don't think that the opposition side didn't give us the right sources, but say about research. So I don't think I have to answer their questions. Hopefully, without further interruptions, the CCTV was even hacked by an elementary school student, according to the upper organization. In regards to the National Human Rights Commission, the average exposure of one day about one person on CCTV gets is 83 times a day. 83 times a day, someone might watch you. This is a clear invasion of one's portrayed rights. And you know what's more serious? That it can be used as a tool of crime. Imagine that our CCTV gets into criminals' hands and is so vulnerable to hacking. I don't think I have to use my time to explain what it triggers, but it will risk every one of our right of life at risk.
Pure.
Yes?
As I said, the data deletion, there is data deletion, even though the hackers have, still the data, don't you think the data is still deleted?
The problem, I believe the problem is not about data, but hackers can use that as a tool of crime about looking at each of our citizens' life and the police officers even. Hopefully without further interruptions, CCTVs are also misused by officials. Would you believe that officials use the CCTVs to look at their dogs, parents, and wives? Unfortunately, it's true. 10,288 times was caught in the last 5 years, according to the CCTV organization. Let me repeat that. 10,288 times was caught. And according to Camera Watch, the UK watchdog on CCTV compliance with the Data Protection Act, our 90% of CCTV systems do not comply with the law, out of purpose. We gave government our tax for CCTV. We sacrificed our rights and our freedom to use our money freely. However, look at CCTV. It threats our rights to live and rights to portray with vulnerabilities of hacking. It threats our tax usage, our right to freely use money by officials using it out of purpose. Even though technology was made for human benefit, it can cause devastating effects. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity gave birth to atomic bomb. Alfred Nobel's dynamite was designed for miners, but ended up with a lot of people's lives during wars. Even though CCTV might be made for citizens' health, it still threats our citizens' freedom. It still threats our freedom. While preparing this debate, I saw so many news about CCTV used as sexual harassment, which obviously shocked me. According to the International Human Rights Commission, 30% of dressing room has CCTV inside. As a girl, as a woman, it's such a terrifying feeling being watched by men for their fun. In my town, in my way, why do I have to fear this kind of things? I cannot understand. There are lots of cases and evidences proving the CCTV used as a sexual harassment, which our member of the government will discuss soon. While passing the torch of this debate to the member of the government, Mr. Speaker, I end my time.
2 minutes.
I'm writing as like. I'm waiting for the
가까이서 찍어줘. 가까이서 애들이 슈터가 아니잖아. 다 도둑들이잖아. 그게 진짜.
Not even counted. You can say that is not enough.
I am so
You're really scary.
You're going to be scared. You did that.
30 seconds.
Yeah, I think we'll understand.
To the Mr. Speaker and my fellow debaters, I'm John, the Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Before I deliver our team's third and final position on this issue, I would like to challenge key errors in the argument made by the Deputy Prime Minister of the government. The Deputy Prime Minister stated that the statistics that our whip stated didn't have a source. However, that is not true. The statistics that he stated is according to, quote, "Are CCTV cameras a waste of money in the fight against crime?" in November 2012. The third reason why we oppose his motion is because the installation of CCTV can prevent crimes. In other words, crimes can be restricted by installing CCTV. In 2006, a 29-year-old man named Chung almost stole $105 million from a Korean bank in Yeoksamdong. It was the CCTV who led to his capture. Not only does CCTV help solving crimes, it also helps preventing crimes. CCTV's main utility is not to catch crime. According to the Center for Problem-Oriented Policing, no, thank you. The main purpose of installing CCTV is to trigger a perceptual mechanism in a potential criminal. In other words, CCTV makes the criminal believe if he or she commits a crime, he or she will be caught. CCTV aims to increase the potential criminal's perception of risk of capture.
Why?
Yes?
Does it have any relevance to our today's proposition?
The relevance to this topic is that CCTV prevents crime, thus protecting our freedom of the citizen. CCTV aims to increase the potential criminal's perception of risk of capture. Because the very existence of CCTV gives a psychological effect, fake cameras that cannot record demotivate any hidden offenders in the same way. Crimeprevention.gov stated that CCTV can prevent crimes by signifying to the public that an area with CCTV installed is a protected and secure place. Now that the public is ensured that the area is safe, there will be an increase in the use of the space. This means that crime is less likely to happen as there are more possible witnesses. Crimeprevention.gov also stated that the presence of CCTV acts as a reminder for people to take other security precautions, such as locking their car or checking their possessions. From this, we can clearly conclude that CCTV prevents crime by triggering the potential criminal's perceptual mechanism, signifying to the public that an area with CCTV is a safe place, and therefore increasing the number of possible witnesses, and reminding people to take other security measures. The speakers of the government will have it, Mr. Speaker, that CCTV solves very few crimes and only threatens our freedom. We also agree with the government that there are ways to catch crime other than installing CCTV. However, we, the opposition, are focusing on the function of CCTV other than solving crimes that have already took place. We are focusing on CCTV's ability to prevent crimes. The word freedom means free from restraints. According to this definition of freedom, CCTV protects our freedom rather than threatening it. CCTV secures our freedom by preventing crimes, which frees us from possible restraints of crime or criminals. Therefore, we, the opposition, strongly disagree with the motion that CCTV threatens our freedom. Thank you.
2 minutes.
They didn't do that.
They still
But they didn't comment. Right.
Yeah, but they are keep going on.
Their definition about our definition is
If it goes that way, the government
they are just point ignored our definition.
you do that.
They didn't comment. Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, and also it says that they can have censor Article 8 and everything. Article 8, not the source.
Sorry, coach.
Hi. Just think of them larva.
But I'd rather have
Alright. 5 minutes. Tony. Go ahead.
To my honorable judge and my fellow debaters, I'm the member of government. Although our opposition has tried fruitlessly to convince us that CCTV is not a threat to our rights, like a criminal who tries to convince the jury for his innocence, this House remains unconvinced. Furthermore, we, the government side, believe CCTV is a threat to our freedom because of the following reason: that CCTV corners women and minorities. But before I go into my argument, I would like to first point out some errors made by the opposition. First, they talk about how CCTV's effectiveness and how they save people's lives. However, we, the government, does not understand how that is related to freedom. And they use their own definition, even though our government has made a more better definition and validated it. Now I will continue my argument. CCTV corners women and minorities, going against the sacred right that no one shall be subject to arbitrary interference with his privacy. Everyone has a protection of the law against such interference or attacks, as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says. According to a well-known news site called The Guardian, in England, a policy called Project Champion was revealed and brought pandemonium. The project was at large Muslim areas, which be monitored with a network of 169 automatic number plate recognition cameras. The cameras, which include dozens of covert ones secretly installed in the street, forms rings of steel so that residents can be tracked entering or leaving the area. After this incident, the West Midlands Police and Birmingham City Council apologized for mistakes around the project and promised that bats will be placed over the cameras to reassure the community that they are switched off while public consultation takes place. So some might ask, what is the problem if they are wrong? The problem is that the police and city council has overlooked the Muslims' right of privacy. The problem is that their right to be considered innocent until the crime has happened or even being revealed has been ignored. And the biggest problem of all is that our sources tell us that these incidents will happen again and again. As Acton rightfully says, I will address that later. As Acton rightfully says, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yes?
How are you sure that these incidents will happen again and again?
Because they happen again and again. And that's not even all. According to American Civil Liberties Union, CCTV has been used in other inappropriate manners, as the following. Experts studying how camera systems in Britain were operated have also found that mostly male operators frequently use the cameras to spy on women. Fully 1 in 10 women was targeted for entirely voyeuristic reasons, the researchers found. Yes. And according to the American Civil Liberties Union, CCTV has been used in other inappropriate manners as the following. Experts studying how the camera systems in Britain have operated have also found that mostly male operators frequently use the cameras to spy on women. Fully 1 in 10 women were targeted for entirely voyeuristic reasons. How would you feel if you were that woman? would you still agree for CCTVs to be operated? I'm deeply angry that humanity has learned nothing at all. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember the Watergate scandal. How President Nixon, yes?
What do you mean by incidents that you're talking in your speech?
I don't understand that question. Could you please restate that?
Oh, what do you mean by incidents that you're talking about in your speech?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have never mentioned the word incidents in my speech. I'm deeply angry that humanity has learned nothing at all. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember the Watergate scandal. How President Nixon misused cameras for his own benefit. How he was thrown out of his office. How many of his top officers have been persecuted. Please remember the unfortunate women, the victims of male officers. Please consider how CCTV has been numerously misused in the past, present, and will be in the future that will follow. I hope that this House is not alone to fully realize how worse CCTVs are used, and with all due respect, that our honorable judge here today to judge this honorable debate will finally realize the truth about CCTVs. While my debate is coming to an end, this is not a final end. In fact, this is a point of change, a point of innovation, into a new era of openness and trust. Mr. Speaker, I owe my time.
Go die. Go die. It's too early to die.
Yeah, but there are some. Yeah. Exactly. I've never been. Yes, let's go. No. Okay. Yeah, the first two things recognized for like they didn't change it, it issued ours, but they didn't hide any freedom, so it doesn't validate and culture. And the usual clear is that article names and not the book itself.
And you?
One minute.
I didn't get there last one.
Keep talking about it.
Wait, then the third one, we only have 2 arguments. I should POC on the. I should do POC on their arguments. This is so
I don't think that.
5 minutes. Andrew?
To the honorable judge and my fellow debaters, I am Andrew, the opposition member. Before I speak, I would like to talk about our definition. The government has said that their definition of freedom is better than our definition. And they asked about why we think that the government's definition is unclear. That was because that we wanted to say that our definition is different from theirs, so we challenged their definition. And our definition means that our definition of freedom means free from restraints. And also, in the government's first reason, they said that outer looks equals hesitation. We don't understand why that is relevant to the motion.
You know what?
Yes.
Why are you manipulating our arguments?
That's because I am the opposition member, and right now, for our debate, my role is to talk about what the government has done wrong. And also, the government member, even if our deputy leader of opposition asked the POC, he just ignored our POC and kept on talking about his argument. And when he asked his second POC about incidents happening again and again, he said that he didn't even say incidents in his speech. But when I asked a POI about the incidents happening again and again, he answered that it is really happening again and again. I don't understand why he said that he never said incidents happening again and again when he asked his POC. And also, when the government asked what our source of information was, they said that we didn't even have a source, but we actually had a source about CCTV cameras being hacked 0.09%. And it was written in November 2012. This is why we believe that the opposition has won the debate. Thank you.
Already
2 minutes.
even if you have to
One minute.
I think I'll go over time.
I'll tell you.
이거니까 N분가 아닌데? 이제는
Want to?
마지막까지 들어가지. 지금까지 생각은 다 적은 게 있긴 하구나.
There you go. Are you gonna stand there, stand up there, or are you gonna hold them up? Okay, so kind of just stay in this area up here. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I am the last speaker of this debate, and we, the government, has proved the proposition that CCTV invades the right of citizens. And while the government has justified the proposition, the opposition has been very failing and has dragged down the level of this debate with their disappointing performance. Now, I would like to summarize our arguments. Firstly, people who find themselves hesitating to do things when they're watched 24/7. When one person is watched 24 hours a day for 7 days, then they will no doubt feel the pressure and find themselves hesitating to do things. Because two giant beady eyes makes a giant difference. How would it feel if someone you barely know was staring you right in the eyes? you'll feel very uncomfortable and you'll feel very awkward. Imagine the things you can't do. You can't sing and dance, as the Prime Minister stated, and also personal things such as talking to someone over the phone. Would it be free? Would it be fair to allow these pressures being exposed to the majority? This invisible big brother that seems to be omnipresent. The opposition has rebutted to this by saying that they said that we are trying to say the external looks are not related to hesitation. However, they're manipulating our arguments, and when I asked them why are they doing this, they admitted it by saying that there's opposition. Now, the second argument we gave is that the possibility of CCTVs being misused. The Deputy Prime Minister and the member of government has stated the precedents of CCTV being misused. And what's in those CCTVs are more than just footage. It's our rights, our privacy, the things we have. However, as we said before, it's being extremely vulnerable to being hacked. In fact, elementary school students have been shown the capacity to be able to hack into the CCTVs. And what's more disheartening than this fact is the majority knows this fact. Again and again, the member of government said, however, the word incident is not relevant, as opposition said. Stealing candy from a baby will be as easy as drawing out the information from those CCTVs, those rights, taking out those rights from those CCTVs. And the last argument we gave was sexual harassment. We mentioned the high probability of CCTVs being misused. However, why? We could ask, why would the people want those footages? Well, in this ethically contaminated world, I would just like to say that there are people with sexually perverted tendencies. Imagine what those people might do when they see those footages. Your wife, your children, anyone you care about, they might be a target to this sexual harassment. These people behind those screens might feel a rush of ecstasy as they enjoy the footages of your wife and your children. Would you like that? I would not. And now to rebut to the opposition statements. They talked about the effectiveness of CCTV, about the potentiality that lives can be protected and crime prevention rate. However, as we stated, the Prime Minister stated, we will only stick to our definition of freedom. And while the opposition, the leader of opposition challenged our definition, they didn't give a good reason why. And when the Deputy Minister challenged that, the opposition's deputy member didn't state it at all. And which in that case, the definition of our side validates. And they mentioned the effectiveness of the CCTVs. However, we are not talking about the effectiveness, and we're talking about whether or not CCTVs invade the rights of our people. And they fail completely in tying it in as our Prime Minister requested. And therefore, I feel no need for the rebuttals to their ridiculous, preposterous arguments. While the Prime Minister has asked to stick with the definitions, they disregarded that request completely. And also, we asked for clearer sources. However, they kept on stating the article names and the research names, not the sources itself. Therefore, it remained vague. Mr. Speaker, as I was preparing for this debate, I have researched many definitions of freedom. However, not one definition comes close to the fact that the majority should be pressured by a camera that seems to be omnipresent. Not one definition comes close to the fact that the people are allowed to be filmed disregarding their will. And not one definition allows the public to be constantly exposed to sexual harassment. And therefore, that is why, Mr. Speaker, we believe that CCTV is a serious threat to our argument. I would like to thank the opposition for their hard efforts, and I will trust that my honorable speaker will make the fair decision, and more importantly, the right decision. Mr. Speaker, I have my time.
2 minutes.
Why? I can't talk to you guys.
We can't.
Mr. Speaker, are we allowed to do peer
No.
It's not in
Yeah, Jeff.
It's not.
It's entirely
It's a
One minute.
Pretend the game. Pretend the game.
Ready?
To the honorable judge and my fellow debaters, we saw here today, I am now the whip of the opposition. CCTV is a threat to our freedom, which is a motion we strongly disagree with. To start with, I would like to briefly summarize the points made by the opposition. Our leader Ray talked about the possibility of saving many lives by CCTV. To be clear, CCTV can find out people fighting or people in health-related emergencies. This has much more possibilities than leaving to a person or people to find the incidents and help them. Thus, CCTV can help people to get out of bad situations and eventually save their lives. This is related to freedom to live. Also, he discussed about the protection of the privacy. Because of the data of CCTV, is deleted when the certain time passes, which is ordinary 15 days. The information which is more important or private gets deleted after 7 days. Yes, it is true that having a private information for a little amount of time is still invading privacy, but this way is the most practical way to solve emergencies and crime. Our deputy leader John argued that crimes can be prevented by the appropriate use for CCTV, which is the main purpose of installing CCTVs. He said that CCTV is a mechanism which helps to solve the crime or to prevent a crime. CCTVs are not only useful for criminals, it also makes people to think that they are safe. Andrew, our opposition member Andrew, didn't manipulate the government's opinion. He just used and rebut the government's opinion. Now I want to talk about the main points throughout the debate. The government talked about the hesitation and the look. Also, the misuse of data and the human rights. It all talk about the human rights. Our opposition said that to save of lives and data deleted, that they can protect their privacy and the prevention of crime. We have talked about the effectiveness of CCTVs, but it's still related to our motion that the CCTV is a threat to our freedom. Now I want to rebut some points made by the government. The Prime Minister didn't have shared the relationship between our look and hesitation or the topic. He spent too much time talking about personal and subjective story. The Deputy Prime Minister had said that many of CCTVs are in danger of hacking, but I have POI heard that the hacked CCTVs in the world have only 0.09%. This is the article that has a name. Our CCTV cameras has the waste of using money in the fight against the crime. And it is written in November 2012, a recent statistic. Yes, there's also the article name is the source. The government member didn't give a statistic about women's rights. He just gave a single example of a scandal and generalized all of the women's rights and he hadn't mentioned of the incidents. He said that incidents are happening again and again, and he also answered the question about the Andres POI about incidents. And he said that it's because incidents are happening again and again. But the opposition used statistics and recent statistics related to the motion. If our arguments are related to our motion, so the opposition should win and the government should lose this debate. Thank you for listening.
Give yourselves a round of applause. You can't say who won. Okay, that's what the rules. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of feedback to take it usually for your next debate. Okay. So one thing that came up a couple times was research. Okay, whenever you cite a statistic or something that's said, what do you have to say? What do you have to say? Like say, you guys said 0.9% of CCTV like statistic there. So what do you have to follow that up with? The source. Now, what's the source got to be? Valid. Well, it's got to be valid, right? It can be a website. It can be an article, but it should also include. If it's an article, it should include the author. Okay. If it's a doctor, if it's coming from a website as well, if it's an article on a website, it should include a doctor. You mentioned, I believe, Human Rights Watch, so that's a good source as well. We don't want to use anything like Wikipedia or anything like that. So just always remember that if you have something like concrete like that, and then back it up with the source, because that can really lay a good foundation for your argument. And okay, the definition. So you guys kind of went back and forth on the definition. So Joseph. Okay, so Joseph said freedom. So in this actually before I said in this proposition, what do you think we need to define? Freedom and threat. Okay, freedom and threat. So Joseph, I think you didn't define threat.
Yeah.
Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, those are the two words that are going to come up when you guys do this later, okay? Threat has to be defined. What does threat mean? And freedom has to be defined. Now, also with freedom, did you guys both kind of do this? You define freedom using the word freedom. Okay? You said freedom for your rights, and you guys said freedom against crime or something along those lines. Okay? So, you guys see the what's lacking there, right? Okay, so keep that in mind. And okay, so when you make a definition, let's say the definition is something that's a little bit, it can be more concrete, and then you guys want to challenge it. There's generally, when somebody makes a definition, when the government makes a definition, generally you don't want to challenge it for two reasons. Okay? Number one, if it's weak, the judge is going to hopefully notice that, and you're kind of obligated to play with it anyway. To debate over it anyway. And if you challenge it and you do it and you don't do it very effectively, then that's going to go against it. Okay? So 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad when you challenge it. Okay? You can do it the right way, or there's 2 ways to kind of do it wrong. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Do you guys have any questions for me? No? Okay, give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, the next debate I believe is at 10 after 12. Yeah, 10 after 12. Technically it's scheduled for 20 minutes. I think we're trying to do things early, so I'm not sure if anybody else is done yet. So why don't you hang out for like 5 minutes and then you guys give us you guys are Mapo goes to seminar B, which is right next door, and Youngstown goes to